As Sterling Bank goes beyond traditional banking and reinvents the customer experience with their cafes, lifestyle events, and digital platforms, we speak today with Yinka Oni, the Chief Information Officer of Sterling Bank. We discuss what interesting things they're working on. Thank you so much, Yinka, for taking time out to be with us today. And for our audience that don't know, you are currently the Chief Information Officer of Sterling Bank. But before you got to Sterling Bank, I'm sure you had a journey beforehand. I know you studied agricultural economics at university. So how do we get from agricultural economics to the Chief Information Officer of Sterling Bank?
Thanks, Tolu. Thanks for having me. So yes, I did agric economics in school, but coming out of school, serving particularly, I was very focused that I wanted to have a career in consulting. So I was pretty looking out for an advert from Anderson Consulting, Arthur Anderson as it was in those days. And one came out, really, and I applied. I mentioned I was serving and probably won't be available until November of that year when service was over. And that was it. And I came to Lagos after service. Probably 2 weeks after I got into town, I actually got an invite to come and write a test at Anderson Consulting. I got into the test, did the test, and then went all the way through the interview to the very last stage. Typically about 4 stages you go through then, and saw a partner. But of course, typically things you don't talk about. You get to talk about the rosy one, I think.
Yeah.
But I didn't get into Anderson at that first attempt.
Okay.
Luckily, I'd also seen an advert for a local consulting outfit somewhere in Bagada in Lagos. I started out in that place in consulting. Probably spent maybe about 6 months there. And then I got called by Anderson, but not Anderson Consulting as a firm, but the recruitment side of the firm called and said they were doing a transformation for a client of theirs. That's how I got into Access Bank. Unique time to be at Access Bank at that time. Bank was going through a transformation. It was the first time they were taking fresh people out of school with 2-1s and stuff like that. And I think it was in Access Bank because of that change that I got the unique opportunity of getting involved in technology. I got noticed by a new head of IT that has joined. I was not in technology, I was in operations. Just got noticed because this was this young, inquisitive guy who was interested in doing things like run the batch file of a decentralized system that we're running then, running the reports and stuff like that. So I joined the core banking team, was involved in training virtually everybody in the bank on the new platform, was involved in conversion for 3 of our branches, and that was it. And then because I'd worked kind of quite well on that project, I got noticed by Anderson Consulting, and this is a firm I'd always wanted to work for, and they then came calling to say, okay, well, we're going to be doing this at a couple of other clients. Would you be interested in necessarily joining the team? And that's how come I got into Accenture. And since then, obviously, it's been technology. I was with Accenture till then. I went to work for FCMB as the CIO at FCMB, and then went on to join the team that was trying to turn around Wema Bank to be CIO there, also responsible for the operations, both operations and technology, and then had another unique opportunity to go work on the supply side, work for Microsoft as the Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft. I'm back in banking as CIO at Sterling Bank.
Interesting. Can you tell us a bit more about the interesting things that you're working on and what new technology you have in the works?
Okay, excellent. So we're obviously taking a spin on financial inclusion in a different way. We would be launching something that leverages the existing license we have around mobile money. And basically we think that the offering in itself would excite the market. Indeed, when we were speaking to the regulators about it, they were excited about how we are approaching it, and we think that that's hot. It's going to be launching very early in February, and that's one big thing that we're doing. We're playing with a couple of things in blockchain. We recently launched a commodity trading platform where we're basically putting in liquidity into the commodity trading space because we're digitizing the old warehouse receipt process and making that something that can be tradable. And so that's already in the market, product called Pinkabe. But we also are actually working on some other things on blockchain ourselves that may speak to trading. And I think that's something that would launch in some space within the year. The aggregator service that I said is one other one that definitely is going to launch in Q1. Another thing that is quite exciting for us is, so when we talk about the different sectors we focus on, we call the art of sterling, which is health, education, agric, renewable energy, and transportation. So within the renewable energy space, we're working on something that kind of gives you a power as a service consumption model that would be launching also in the Q1 space. We are launching also some, so we do have a subsidiary, or we have a window for Islamic banking, non-interest banking, and so we're launching also a e-commerce mall, alt mall as we call it. That's also launching within the Q1 frame, as it were. So a couple of interesting things that coming up.
That sounds like you have a lot that you're doing and
Yes.
it's coming up.
Yeah.
But with the emergence of a lot of the fintech companies, how is your strategy having to change? Because I guess there's a sense that they are capturing some of your market share, and that's the banking industry as a whole. So how is your strategy changing in terms of thinking of the products that you release and in terms of what you offer to your customers?
Sure. We think that the strategy should be inclusion. We don't think that we should be thinking about fintech as those guys that are against us. We actually think that bringing in the ecosystem within the fintech into our own space is what would play out stronger. And so for that reason, API economy has been something that has been very strong in our minds. We're very bullish about obviously wanting to let fintech leverage our own APIs such that they can then obviously we can find also new ways of monetization, as it were. So we think collaboration is the way. We also don't think that we can be all things to all men, so we don't think we can do all things, but if we find some unique way to necessarily collaborate because of the assets we have, interesting conversations we're having with even prominent names in the fintech space about what we could do together. So we really just think that it's another opportunity for all of us to widen the market space, as it were. As opposed to be thinking it would shrink what the opportunity is, we think it would actually further increase it.
Okay. So you talk about obviously trying to collaborate more with some of these fintechs.
Sure.
So what are you looking out for in a fintech that has some sort of product that maybe wants to work with you? What are the key things that you'll be looking out for when you're assessing who to work with and who not to work with?
Sure. I think one, it must be something that speaks to areas of interest or strength for us. I'm not going to say I'm going to be chasing every fintech doing everything in all sectors.
Yes.
I'm more focused around the sectors, or we are more focused around the hard sectors because that speaks to our area of focus and strength. Obviously want to work with people who again have pedigree around good governance because we pride also ourselves in being a ethically well-run organization. So governance is definitely of importance, as it were. And then somebody who is just doing something that is challenging the status quo. We see ourselves as a challenger. So oftentimes we really want to work with people who want to challenge the status quo.
Okay, excellent. Where do you see the future of banking going? Obviously, with all the new age technologies coming out, with the high competition coming from fintechs and other banks, where is the future of banking?
I think it's down to experience, it's down to personalization. Um, and at the back of all of that is data. Um, we've traditionally not been that good in using data. The reason why the fintech came and they became quite very attractive, sexy, and all of that was the way they were using data. A lot of this data has always been with the banks forever. We just never connected the dots. Um, so increasingly, it's about someone who is connecting the dots and being able to personalize and curate those experiences, as it were. Um, I think that's what will make a difference. And as quick as everybody is trying to know that most important asset you may have really is about data. And that's why you see the likes of all the big four, they're all grabbing data as much as they can, because as much as they grab that data, that's when they're able to tailor things to necessarily get your attention. And attention spans can be very small, really, in the craziness of the environment that we are in, where you're always ever connected. So really, it's about someone who really can harness those data to make those kind of connection. I think that's what will define.
So a career spanning over 20 years. It seems like you've sort of moved from one success to the other to the other. But have there been any key challenges on the way, and how have they shaped your view of the future, and how have they helped you become who you are?
I mean, that's why I said the other time that the rosy picture you see sometimes. The first time I wanted to go into Anderson, I didn't get in.
Okay.
And to be honest, that was something that really shook me, because I was coming almost like from youth service thinking the only place I would ever work is this place. I didn't even give myself too much of a second chance or option. I mean, and that just generally shows me that, okay, yeah, nothing is infallible, you can fail. But I think what it does define is the fact that when you fail, you try again. And there are times, even severally in this career of mine, that you start up with a project and you think you're on to something great, and it doesn't work out that way. But you never give up of wanting to actually push the envelope of actually wanting to either be innovative or wanting to do something first, just because it's going to fail. But learn, for example, about the knowledge of failing fast, and then learning from that. Also being able to even tell yourself when you're failing. Because there's also a point where you may be failing and you're just digging your heels and you're not necessarily taking the corrective actions. That's also something that obviously is a good learning. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So learn from your failures.
Yeah,
exactly. And fail fast.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Okay. So what one book has been fundamental to your growth as a person? Or what one book can you recommend?
Sure. Interestingly, I think it will be the first book they made me read at Accenture, which is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Right.
It's simple, but it clearly defines what it is. So, for example, I'm very kind of time focused on being on time for things and being able to compartmentalize things into this is important, this is not important, this is urgent, this is necessary, and those kind of things. So that I think that book really, truly has been that important for me. But I do read a lot of books, but I think that one was quite one that shaped my mind.
Okay. And so you read it like 20 years ago, and it's still very key?
It is very key. I talk to it to people almost every time when I'm mentoring or coaching people. It was the first book I gave my son when he became a teenager. Just went to look for the teenager version of it. So yeah, it's quite a book. Yeah.
Okay. And you talked about your son. Would you want them to go into technology like you, or you would just leave them to do what they want?
I don't think the kids that you raise these days that you can actually force them into doing anything. I think people these days really just have a strong mind of their own. I mean, I didn't know when my son dropped biology, for example, in school because he was focused on what he wants to do. So he's clearly onto his own thing. It has nothing to do with what I want or that. So yeah.
How do you balance work and family? Because banking can be a very demanding career.
Sure.
So how do you balance it?
Even from my days in consulting, I've always thought that family time is special and unique. So typically when I go home, the first thing I do is I'm not at work anymore. And I don't think about work. Rather, I would spend time to wake up in the night if I do have to catch up with work. So those days in consulting, typically I take homework to review, but as a rule, I wouldn't do that when I get home and with the family. I'd rather wake up in the middle of the night and maybe take 2 hours or 1 hour before starting to get ready for work to review my work, put on my notes and all that on any work I take home for review. And that way it just makes you to be there present. I find that, yes, the time may not be that lengthy, but just being present in the moment is clearly more important. And so even when you're taking vacation, it's a case of how do you want to be present in the moment. And I think is there ever a silver bullet to it? To be honest, no. I find.
Interesting. And finally, what does the future hold for you?
Well, I mean, I'm enjoying being at Sterling right now, and I think I would be for quite a while. What after Sterling, maybe, who knows? I definitely like coaching and mentoring. So it may be something that definitely in some way that would be an after Sterling journey.
Excellent. Yinka Oni, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
It was good having you.
Thank you so much.